All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Same old intro, SoccerMom again, but like you might have seen in the thumbnail, this video is primarily about the very expensive radiator that I'm building for SoccerMom. Now, is it a $2,000 radiator? Well, I'm going to explain to you how I came to that number, and also why it's not abnormal to have that much in any kind of custom radiator. So, see, we got a radiator in the car, got a whole bunch of pieces over there on the bench. We're gonna get started in getting this out, getting it over to the bench and doing a whole bunch of welding work to it so that we can get this thing wrapped up and get it put back in the car, because I need something to do until my engine shows up. Or our engine shows up. We're going to be down to the last minute on that thing, but hopefully all that goes well. All right, see you in a second. All right, so right off the bat, you can kind of see I've got some mounts tack welded onto the radiator. We've got our fan mounted to the radiator. We've got a big hole in the radiator here where the old filler neck was, so obviously we've got to do something with that. Got a mount there that mounts to a tab. If you didn't see yesterday's video, there is a gap between this steel tab on the frame and the aluminum mount on the radiator, because there's going to be a rubber washer that is tightened up between there so that the radiator has a little bit of wiggle room. Just like down here on these little saddle mounts that Will made, there's some soft material in here that lets the radiator have just a little bit of wiggle to take all of the frequency and vibration out of the radiator itself while we're going down the road and all the vibration of the car. And that should be something that helps the radiator live a little bit longer, or a lot longer really, and keeps it working. Like the radiator that used to be in this car had been in several different cars. It had been in a car that crashed. It had been a part of several head gasket destructions with SoccerMom. Mostly my fault. But when you pressurize a cooling system, it can do really weird stuff to the inside of a radiator. And like you guys might have seen on Sick Week last year, we battled some overheating problems. And hopefully this year, that is not going to be the case. I'm optimistic. So you may have caught it a second ago, but I did a little something tricky on the gusset for this side. The idea is that as the air hits that, it's going to kind of funnel the air into the radiator, or the turbo. So kind of see it through the grill there, which I could have certainly got a whole lot wilder there. I plan to also fabricate something that closes most of this off. Like we'll just make it bolt to the radiator and maybe put a little L bracket here so that it catches or something. But that'll be possibly after Sick Week, because I think this fan is going to do plenty to keep air going through the radiator to keep it cool while we're on Sick Week. Especially because we have the gear vendors now. Should keep RPM out of the engine while we're going down the road. But let's get over to the bench and show you the next step of everything that we've got to accomplish in this video. All right, so radiator on the table, and you can already see we've got some time in cutting off the old mounts and getting that all dressed up. And the time is one of the things that's going to factor into this whole radiator assembly that we're going to talk about to get to the price, the $2,000 for a radiator. Which maybe that's a little misleading, but it's kind of a module, so I'm gonna go with it. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So, you can see we've got time in fabricating our gusset slash air deflector for the turbo. I have to weld on two 12 AN bungs here. We have a custom 16 AN bung here that the water pump will screw onto. Got to make a block off plate for that. On the other side, we have a 10 AN bung that's going to be where the expansion tank attaches to the radiator. Up here, there's a 4AN bung, which is going to be the vent for the top of the expansion tank, so that the air can bleed out of the radiator, and that's how expansion tanks work the best. And then we've got our Delta Pag 18-inch brushless fan, along with the radiator itself. And then our water pump that's going to be screwed to the radiator. But here's all my parts and pieces. I'm actually short one piece that I still need to put on, and I still have some time in modifying the water pump housing itself that I haven't even calculated yet. So it's getting a little late in the evening, but I'm going to try and get the radiator itself knocked out, and then tomorrow I'll worry about modifying the water pump. But let's get started on some welding and some other machining, mostly welding. I know you guys like watching the TIG welding time lapses, so it's time for me to get to work and melt some metal together. I like welding aluminum, it's a lot of fun. All right, well, now that we've finished up with the KSR time-lapse music, we can go on and explain a little bit about what all's been going on. You noticed a second ago I had a hole saw that I was drilling in to the side of the radiator with, and then I had, you might have been able to see a deburr tool that is actually a hand tool that I use to remove the kind of shrapnel and the rough edges from the inside of the hole. Now, I could use a carbide to do the same thing, but the reason I don't is because when I use the hand deburring tool, the chunks are a lot larger. I kind of peel them off in slivers instead of it being with a carbide. It's making all kinds of little tiny shrapnel and chips and little bitty pieces that I don't want to end up inside the core of the radiator itself. So every time I drill a hole, I go at it and attack it with a deburr tool. And yeah, that's something that takes a little bit of extra time, but it keeps from not only clogging the radiator, like, you know, clogging the tubes as they cross the radiator, but it also keeps any of the chunks from ending up in the water pump. Like if, say, I'm working on the tank that feeds into the water pump, which is what that larger hole was, that keeps me from, you know, damaging the water pump potentially. And yeah, forget to move the time lapse here, or forget to aim the camera back over for a couple of seconds, but we'll fix that here in just a second. Kind of thought it was funny to leave it in, so I did. But did a little quick test fit to make sure that the water pump angle is where I wanted it, and it wasn't. I needed to clock it just a little bit more, so I broke my tack welds, twisted it just a little bit, retacked it in, also worked on or double checked the angle of my bung that's going to go point towards the expansion tank. And as you guys may be able to tell, there's a lot of welding that's going on. I think I burned up 8 pieces of filler rod welding all this stuff on. I'm using 3/32 filler rod that is 4043, and I'm using a 3/32 tungsten using the HTP welder with the frequency set on, I think, 180 hertz, and then the balance is set at 65. I've got a number 6 cup on the TIG torch and a very short stick out. That's what seems to help me the most when it comes to getting nice looking aluminum TIG welds, is a small cup and a very short stick out. So I've got very good gas flow coverage over the weld. I've tried gas lenses, cranking the flow way up, and it still just doesn't seem as pretty as a short stick out and the small cup to really focus the argon on the weld puddle itself. I don't know why. Like, I've watched other people on YouTube, other welders, to try and get tips from them, ideas on what they're doing, and can't get it to duplicate the same things that they're doing. So sometimes you just have to experiment for yourself and find the best thing that works for you. So on these 12AN bungs here, the main thing that I've got to make sure happens is that we can still get a wrench on both hose ends once they're welded to the radiator. So I did a little test fit here. You can see they're spaced apart just a little ways so that we can get a wrench and tighten each of them once they're fully assembled into the car. I don't know where I disappeared to here. Oh yeah, I was making the plate. Cool. So to cover the large hole, because it's larger than the actual tube that comes off, I just made a plate that covers the whole area up there, gives a little bit of extra reinforcement. But welding it all the way around, welding the first bung on, and then welding the second bung on here in just a minute. And that'll wrap up the last of the welding on the radiator itself. Now, I still have to modify the water pump outlets, but we're going to do that tomorrow. All right, that wraps up the radiator welding. And as you can see, lots of little custom-y stuff. Like I said, that's our vent back for the expansion tank. That's where the expansion tank will fill. Let's call it in quotes, because the expansion tank's going to be like over here in the car, and it'll be a little bit higher than this, so it will allow the radiator to be completely full of water, which will allow the fan to always be cooling the water down, instead of, if your water level is a little low in the radiator, well, you've got air in your tubes and you're not using all of your cooling capacity. So we've got the 12AN bungs welded on for the returns from the engine. Ooh, that's still warm. as well as the bung for the water pump. A few people said that this was never going to work, it's going to break, and mullet is done the same way, exactly the same way, and at least it was when I left. I don't know if they still are using that water pump for the big block, but I know all of the time that it had the LS in it, we had the same exact setup with the water pump. Now, what I plan to do, just make sure this is, yeah, I think we'll be all right. I got lucky here and didn't even mean to. That you can see is a little on the close side to my bracket here, but a miss is as good as a mile. Uh-oh, looks like I've got to mess with one of the welds there a little bit. Yeah, that's supposed to rotate around just a little bit more. So I think I'm hitting the weld instead of it bottoming out on the bung like it's supposed to, but easy fix for that, a little bit of sanding action, or I'll just, when I weld my pieces onto here, my 12AN bungs to feed the engine, I'll just angle them up at an angle there. Shouldn't be too big of a deal, but you can see I've got everything all welded up. Didn't do too bad a job on the old aluminum welding there. But yeah, radiator is ready to be assembled with the fan back on it, as well as there's going to be a transmission cooler mounted up here. Just a plain transmission cooler. We're not even going to put a fan on it because the cooler at the back of the car has a fan on it. And I think between the two coolers, we really shouldn't have any problems with transmission temperature. If we do, we'll put a fan on it, but the fan that's on the front here, you know, is going to be drawing air through the transmission cooler and the radiator itself. So should be pretty good in there, but you came here because you saw the title of the $2,000 radiator. So let me set the camera down for just a second and we'll show you some numbers. I'm going to take this back off, hopefully, before it gets stuck on there. You know what, we'll worry about that tomorrow. All right, so let's look at some numbers. Now I am including the radiator, fan, the water pump, all the parts, and then the labor. So we started out with a $380 radiator from AFCO. Fan is $425 from Delta Pag. Neither one of those includes shipping, so you could probably add up these numbers a little bit more. We had 4 12AN bungs, which I haven't used 2 of them yet for the water pump. So 40 bucks there, 1 10AN bung, $8, a 4AN, 7. The electric water pump that we're using is $200. Miscellaneous materials, nuts, bolts, tabs, aluminum for making, you know, some of these brackets, as well as the mounts for the other side. 16AN bung where the water pump screws on, and 8.5 hours labor. And that includes mounting it in the car, trimming off the old hoses, or the old hose outlets, trimming off the old radiator cap bung, as well as all of this fitting. And then I had a little over 2 hours in welding all of this stuff on. Now I still have to reassemble everything, put Deutsch connectors on all of the accessories, the electrical accessories that are, you know, the water pump and the fan, and then install the transmission cooler, which I did not even include in the parts breakdown, but that comes out to $1,020 in labor at $120 an hour, which is what we charge at the shop, and $1,095 just in all of these parts. So pretty quickly, we're actually a $2,115 cooling module that is going into SoccerMom. We've built ones that are more expensive. We've built some that are less expensive, but this is not an abnormal cost for this type of setup. Now, we hope it's not going to give us any problems. Knock on wood, which I don't have anywhere. Maybe the wall's wood. hopefully we don't have any problems and we make it through sick week without the drama that we had last year of all of the overheating problems. I know it made for good video of all the times we overheated and were on the side of the road, and we want to avoid that this time and make it to all of the checkpoints and enjoy ourselves. Which, for this thrash this week, and not having the engine till the very last minute, possibly, it's going to be an interesting week. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. Hope you enjoyed the fabrication as well as the explanation of costs for some of this stuff. So please like and subscribe. Give us a comment down in the bottom. We'll see you guys in the next one.